Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. I know that fall is basically already upon us, but I just wanted to throw in one sneaky little summer cake before all the good weather is gone. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I made this mermaid queen bougie looking cake. So let's get right into it. P.S. I'm pretty sure I have sunstroke, so if it sounds like I'm struggling, I am. I'm starting out with an 8-inch cake that I've already iced and covered in fondant. If you need to see how to get to this point, I will link that video down below. And I'm just taking some pink and purple food coloring gel that I've mixed with some food grade alcohol, and I'm going to start stippling that on in little splotchy patches. Hot tip, when stippling, only use brushes that you don't really care about because over time they will just be fanned out and will lose their shape. Once the whole cake was covered, I went back in and I'm just going over all of the edges, blowing them out to soften them. I went over my whole cake a couple of times, and when I was all done, it looked like this. I cut some bubble tea straws so that they were flush at the top of my cake, and then added a little smear of buttercream and popped my 6-inch tier on top. I have this shell mold that I will link below along with everything else I'm using in this video, and I'm just starting to make a butt ton of shells, and when I say a butt ton, I mean a butt ton. I rolled out this long strip of white fondant, and then with this mermaid template that I made for myself, I'm cutting that out with my X-Acto knife. The shape of the crown wasn't really paddling my canoe, so I just modified it by cutting out those middle ridges. Once I was happy with the shape, I just propped it up and wrapped it around this masking tape that I found. You can use a jar, you can use whatever you have, just so it fits nicely on the top of your cake. I let mine dry completely overnight, but if you need to speed up the process, you can add a little bit of Tylose powder to your fondant before you cut out the shape. So now I'm going to add my shells. I'm starting out with the biggest one at the top. I did hand form this one, and you can tell because it's the ugliest one. I did try to keep them fairly symmetrical on either side going down the front, and just use some edible glue to stick them on there. As I go along in all of the little nooks and crannies, I'm adding some pearls as well as some white rock candy for more of a crystal effect. And this is what she looked like when she was all finished. For my white seaweed, I cut out some fondant in this really long tapered shape, and I'm just gently twisting that at the top and bottom. I made a couple different sizes and then just attached those on either side of my cake. I added some bigger chunks of rock candy around the base of my cake, and then with more of that edible glue, I'm sticking on some tiny little white parallels, some bigger pearls, and then some white sanding sugar as well. To make my tail, I've rolled out this fat teardrop shape, and then I'm just starting to roll out the larger part to create the fins. You can see I'm rolling this out fairly thin and then trying to keep that tapered end more on the thicker side. I just eyeballed the shape of each fin. It took me a couple times before I was happy with it. And then with my balling tool and my little foam pad, which is just stained, not dirty, I promise, I'm going around and thinning out all the edges. I added a bunch of lines on either fin, and then I went back in with my smaller balling tool, and I'm really fanning out some of those edges and tearing little pieces, mainly on the top. I didn't do it as much to the bottom. I let that set up for a while and then went back in with this pinky purple color, just really lightly. You can see I kept the color away from the center of each fin, and then I'm going in and just spraying that more concentrated color so it speckles the whole thing. I used that same purple I used for the tail, going back to my cake, and I'm going to start at the top edge of that top tier and just work my way down, stippling that color. I want it to be darker at the top and fade down about halfway through, keeping the bottom portion white. I added more pearls and sanding sugar to the top of my cake and then popped the tail on using some more of my edible glue. With a fine tip brush and some gold paint, I'm going around the edges of the fin, and at the very tips, I just added a little more of that color and dragged it in. With an even finer tipped brush, I'm painting on the scales all the way down the base of my tail, and then I painted either side of that as well. I splattered a little bit of gold onto the fins, just a little bit, and then with some white food coloring gel, I drew on a couple bubbles. You don't have to add the bubbles, but I just liked the way it looked. And this was the final result, guys. I know it's a bit gaudy, but I love it. This is the last cake of the summer. Going forward, we will be going into spooky season, and I cannot wait. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.